Turn It On, the Level 42 fan podcast, is in no way affiliated with the band. The views, thoughts, and opinions expressed are solely the speaker's own.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Welcome to Turn It On, the Level 42 fan podcast. We're here with our typical trio from here in the U.S., here to talk the time away with all things Level 42, the greatest group ever to walk planet Earth. The very thirsty Mikey Payne, welcome and hello to you, my friend.
Hello, welcome. Hello, how are you doing, Bob? Win?
Good. And Mr. Winston Walker, someone who never drops a bottle of water, the one with many faces and many names. Welcome. Hello to you, my good man.
True. I am wide awake today. I will not sleep through this show. Promise.
Good. Well, the show is still young. But anyway, I'm Bob Considine, also saying hello to all the Level 42 fans out there, both past, current, and future from all over the world. We very much appreciate you being here with your likes, listens, and follows. They are always appreciated. Great to talk to you guys. It has been a while, too long. Wanted to say, first and foremost, thanks to all the positive feedback we got on our last episode with Annie McKaig. It was really great to hear, great to read. Couple of things going on in the Level 42 world as we record this episode. Obviously, the band are in the midst of their summer festival schedule, and these are kind of these, I guess you call them level light gigs, I guess. Shorter set lists, no rarities. And guys, not being tested on this, have either you, Mikey or Winston, watched any footage online in recent days and weeks?
I haven't actually. No, I haven't. I need to.
Yeah, it's been. I haven't watched a lot either. I did watch one today from a gig that occurred this weekend. It was at Let's Rock in Southampton, and it was basically from the video was from the crowd, pretty good distance away, maybe 20 rows back or so, and it was a full version of Hot Water. And
nice.
Yeah, quite good. You're not getting anything unusual in these shows, as you all know, but it is, I think, in watching it, every once in a while you have to step back and say, thank God these guys are still playing,
Exactly.
It's not a given anymore,
Right. Absolutely correct, Bob.
I'm not even sure I didn't even notice. I've seen pictures. So I didn't even notice there were videos, but I guess they kind of look the same. I just didn't bother clicking on anything.
Yeah.
I did see that someone posted a clip, but I did not watch it, of Mark King being interviewed by a young lady.
Yes, and I believe that was from that show, Wayne. I think. I'm not positive. But
so
what was interesting about that interview,
in that?
Yes, there was. For my part, there was. He did get the typical question of any new material coming, and Mark responded in much the way he often does, which is we're always kind of making music, but whether we ever put it out depends on if it's if the stars align, I guess, because they still want to focus on that big catalog when they play live. But it was interesting in the sense that he didn't really deny that he wasn't recording new music. But what was more telling to me was the idea, and he said this kind of unprovoked, where he said, maybe one of these days we'll do like, what was it? Not a B-side,
deeper cuts.
Yeah, deep cuts.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So that doesn't mean the next time, but it's kind of percolating in their minds, maybe.
Exactly.
Okay. That's awesome.
Yeah, even if it's not a complete deep cut show, I think he gave the idea that maybe he'll do some shows that have a lot of deep cuts versus 2 or 3.
I'm of the mind that I just don't see it being feasible or smart for them to do a tour where it's just heavily folk, because you're basically disappointing a bunch of people.
Oh yeah, no, you can't.
Unless they did like, hey, we're going to do a special one-off thing where we're just going to play stuff that we never played, songs that we've never played live before, right?
Yep.
And it's a one-off special gig, then I get it, because people can be expecting it and not like, you know what, I remember these guys. Where's those 3 or 4 really big songs? How come they didn't play that? You know?
Right.
Well, you remind me of something when you were talking about that. Like, you think about the group Kiss, which of course has no relation to Level 42 whatsoever. But what they would do before they recently, quote unquote, hung it up, which they probably never will, but was they'd play these Kiss cruises with the most hardcore fans on board, and they would play just deep cuts and acoustic versions of them too. And they basically, what do you want to hear? Imagine a something like that. That would be tremendous, you know.
Minus
Level 42 on the Queen Mary 2. Yeah.
Minus the boat, I'd be all in for it.
That's half the fun.
Yeah.
Okay.
So anyways, there's some good news. There is some good news, as I said. The guys are playing sporadic dates in the UK and Europe, and they've officially added dates in Japan, Yokohama, Tokyo, Osaka at Billboard Live in September, and also a Singapore gig at the end of September. So good on them for doing that.
Hey.
Yeah. And a couple of gigs at the Indigo at the O2 in the end of November to close out the year. Another big news item since we last recorded is Mike Lindup has added another solo gig, and that'll take place on December 21st at Union Chapel in London. Good on Mike for keeping his word and continuing to add solo gigs where he can, likely still celebrating Changes 2. You know, this would be a tremendous show for anybody to go to.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I'm like excited to, when more info drops, like, you know, when we get to the point where it's like, here's the band, you know, and because that'll be really cool. Like, how many people are playing this gig that were at the Jazz Cafe and on the record, and then the set list too, because, you know, obviously they've got, I'm making an assumption here because it's months away, they'll have a few opportunities to practice, so maybe they can do some other things that we don't expect to hear.
I'd love to see some songs off, you know, the On the One album.
Yeah.
Kind of in between both Changes albums. Love that one. EP.
Yeah. Yeah, that Madness track is excellent on there.
Yeah.
And isn't Yolanda Charles is confirmed that she's going to be playing at that gig with them as well. Yeah.
Oh, I hadn't heard anything.
Yes. Yeah. Former Turn It On.
Awesome.
Former Turn It On podcast guest Yolanda Charles will be at that gig, which is
I missed that announcement.
Yeah. So awesome.
Also wanted to give a big shout out to both you guys. Obviously, earlier this year, and we talked about it last show, Winston had been doing a lot of those 4K reproductions of Level 42 concerts and videos for everybody to enjoy. And more recently, Mikey's been pulling the strings behind these, what I guess they're called filtered instrumentals. Mike, tell us all about those.
Oh, yeah. Well, first off,
I created a monster.
I know you did, Winston. I was going to say, it's all due to Winston, to be honest. He shared, he a couple months back had, shared with me some instrumentals that he had.
No. Let me create. Okay, you're right. Go ahead. I was going to say, you haven't started doing this a couple of months back. It's not even been a month, and you're probably halfway through the catalog.
I was inspired by Winston because he had done something very similar with a lot of tracks. And so he sent me this plugin to use and started knocking some of the tunes out and, started hearing a lot of the stuff that's underneath all the vocals.
Yeah.
That sometimes really, a lot of the intricate stuff, is really hard to hear sometimes.
Yes.
And some of the songs just totally surprised me. Just the layers and I actually heard some of the songs differently than I did with the lyrics. Not to say I don't love them with the lyrics, because I do. This is just kind of a unique one-off kind of insight to what's underneath all this stuff. And so I shared with some friends, and one of them being Lisa Devlin, and she was going, it's just as crazy about him as I was. So I was like, you know what? Why don't I just put it on 42 FM? And, if we like him, maybe other people will like him. And then I did that, and it just exploded on me.
Yeah.
And so thank you, Winston Walker, for creating that monster. But yeah, I think as of it is addicting. Yeah. I think as of the podcast recording tonight, I think I have about 101, 102 in a folder.
Oh, okay. I was like, no way
FM.
You posted that many so far, but it does seem like every 12 minutes another one goes up.
Yeah, they kind of been coming up in bunches of 6, but
right. Well, so I was like, why doesn't he just do like a full album and do what they call a playlist and just like boom? But
I know the answer.
What's the answer?
Because Mikey can't sit still.
He's just all over the place.
That's not it.
Yeah.
No, actually, it was when you do stuff, when you upload video, I'm inspired by what Winston does and what Julian does and what Morgan does with the official video page and stuff. I'm trying to, I've been fortunate. We've traded some stuff and trying to put some stuff up on my page that maybe not a lot of people had a chance to hear. And like others, I don't make any money from my page. And in fact, I've got some breaking news about my page.
We love breaking news.
I started the page back in 2016, and my knowledge of technology and stuff was very limited. So a lot of the stuff I've uploaded in the early days, audio-wise, doesn't sound so good. So I'm going to be uploading some of the stuff that's on my page that's going to sound a hell of a lot better. Nice. And because that's the biggest complaint that I've had on my page is, Mike, we love your stuff, but it sounds like crap. So I've now learned how to do it properly.
But we're talking about just primarily live stuff, right?
Yeah, I started out doing just a lot of the live stuff. And then, as you know, back in, we had people that had the demos and, some people might listen to that. So I kind of went that way. And so the sound quality in some of it is just really poor. And it deserves better. If I'm going to have it on my page, I want it to at least sound better and do the band justice.
Inherent in the live recordings that you're getting? If they're, there's a tiny bit that are soundboard, but demos and live recordings from the audience, aren't they just?
Yeah, I had some stuff. I had some radio broadcast stuff and some soundboard stuff that definitely will sound a lot better than what's on there right now. So if you guys have liked something on my page and it disappears, don't worry. It's going to be re-uploaded and it's going to sound much, much better. So
maybe you didn't use the best quality when you originally did.
Yeah, I didn't. It wasn't the source material so much as my lack of knowledge on creating these files back in the day.
Oh, okay. Because I was thinking, who's the jerk that's saying, "Hey, man, that audience recording from 1981 sucks. What could you do better?"
I know. How can you create Vinny Victoria mono into perfect stereo? It's just not possible.
We go back in time.
Okay.
But and the other news is I finally, just about 3 months ago, maybe longer than that, I finally found my box of 300 audio cassettes.
Wow. Oh, goodness.
And I know in there's some jewels in there that I've got a lot of North American radio interviews somewhere in there.
Yeah.
North American and Canadian.
That's great.
Ones.
Yeah, that's awesome.
And some other stuff. So I finally will be able to start putting that up pretty soon. So yeah, 42 FM is changing, and thanks again for all the support again. It's just for fun, and I appreciate anyone who listens.
Right.
But
so stay tuned, folks.
But yeah, stay tuned. 42 FM. It's on YouTube.
On your YouTube dial.
There
Yeah.
you go. Yeah. That would be yacht funk, correct?
We're not getting there today.
We're not
Um,
going there. Not going there.
but we
So,
will at some
just
future
a
time.
quick aside about the videos. Like I kind of ran out of like 4K stuff, but I've been busy too. But I did find something. Someone posted a video, that Hardage track featuring Mark King, "Genius," the Genius of Love.
Yeah,
Yeah.
So I didn't know that there was a music video.
me
It's an
either.
animated.
I didn't either.
So someone posted it like a week ago. And I'm like, how did I never know that this even existed? Let alone never saw it. So so YouTube link.
When was it a fan made video or was it?
No. This seems to be okay. I don't know. It says official video, but
Okay.
in the world of YouTube,
Right.
It could be someone taking a shower and it's the official video. I don't know, but it seems like it's I don't know. It just says official video, so I assumed I have to look at the YouTube credits and see if it lists like the record company or something.
Oh, that's a great.
But I basically converted it to 4K, so I'm going to upload it. It looks pretty good, and actually, there's one like some fans would do where they took it and they overlaid the lyrics to the song.
Right.
But the lyrics are easy to decipher, so it's like, I don't know. But yeah, I think it says official video, so
I have to check it out.
Yeah, cool stuff.
And Mike, just for the just before we leave the filtered instrumentals, I have to say I haven't listened to all of them.
Yeah.
Prior to any of this, I do recall Winston having access to instrumental versions of Forever Now, which I used to hold very dearly. I used to love those things.
Yeah, absolutely.
But the ones that you've put out, I really like what you hear with the song "Man" off the Staring at the Sun album. That's such a complicated song. I think it's in 7/4, and there's a lot going on underneath the vocal, and you never got to hear it before. And I'm just
yeah.
I
did the live version and the studio album version of that one because I wanted to hear kind of both perspectives of it, But yeah, and I've got like you just said, Bob, I had a lot of feedback about "Man," being ones that the people were waiting to hear, and I tell you, ones that stood out with me that was like, whoa, was off of Guaranteed 7 Years. That stripped of vocals, especially there in the middle where Alan Holdsworth's guitar just starts to wail.
Yep.
That whole sequence there, just amazing. And then another one that I didn't expect would jump out at me was Dance on Heavy Weather. And that one just really jumped out at me. And then especially at the very end, there's a lot of jamming that I'd never heard before. And that was really fun to listen to. There's a couple others I can't think of at the moment. I could list them all.
Another one for me was off the Forever Now album, Hard on the Line.
Yeah.
It never occurred to me how sparse the bass playing is on that song. Like on the verses, there is no bass. And when he does come around and play the bass, I swear to you, I think he's playing a 6-string on this. Like he's played 5-string before, but some of the notes are so low. It's like, oh my God, you can barely even hear it. But without the lyrics, you can hear it even better.
Yeah, and what I will say about these filtered instrumentals is, as Winston was telling me when he was showing me how to do all this, it doesn't do it 100%,
right?
And sometimes it'll clip things. It's not perfect, but it's as close as you're going to get, I think, to like an official instrumental. And in fact, the Forever Now tracks that I've been uploading have not been filtered. They've actually been the original instrumental tunes. Because why put up a sort of inferior one if there's a better one out there?
Right. Yeah, so, I think for folks listening, this has become very popular in the last 4 or 5 years. I mean, really popular with DJs or remixers, and folks that, use samples in music. It used to be, you'd have to EQ the heck out of something if you just wanted to isolate the bass track, if you want to sample it or whatever. And how, so you could basically go online. There's tons of websites. There's little apps you can get on your phones that basically, it just kind of filters out certain frequencies.
Mm-hmm.
And typically you'll get, the drum track, the vocals, the bass, and then like other stuff. So a lot of times when you do it, you may miss a bit of keyboard or a bit of guitar if they share the same frequencies.
Exactly.
But if you just want to remove the vocals, it works amazing. Or if you just want to remove the bass, like for example, when I originally did it, I did a couple of versions where I just removed the bass from all the tracks because I figured, I've got friends who play bass. They might want to kind of do the whole play along thing where they're just replacing Mark's bass with their bass. And it's great, I guess, for singers.
Right.
If you're wanting to hear what are they actually saying? Because recently I did a song because I wasn't sure what the singer was saying. So I isolated the vocals and I'm like, now I can really hear, because that's a really common thing I think that people struggle with. It's like, I've been singing this song wrong for 10 years. Like I didn't know what they were saying. Yeah. But if you want to do it yourself, there's websites, lots of free apps where you can do it. And it basically just kind of strips out certain parts or whatever. Mm-hmm. And then when you get into the more high end pro level stuff, it can really isolate like almost every instrument in a song. It's like crazy ridiculous. Like if you go on YouTube, you'll see videos of some of this stuff in action, and it's sort of mind blowing.
Yeah, I've heard some isolated Police tracks where you just hear like Stuart Copeland's drums, and it doesn't sound like something somebody did at home. It sounds like that's the drum track from the album, and that's it. Anyway, moving right along, we still have a main topic to get to today, which is going to be the retrospective of the 40-year anniversary of the True Colors album. But before we do that, guys, very quickly, just wanted to put out one appetizer topic out there for both of you, and hopefully the kids at home can play along. We always try to come up with some fodder that has yet to be discussed in the decades that we've had, basically bulletin boards and forums where Level 42 fans can talk about things. And I thought it might be interesting to discuss what Level 42 or even a solo song would make for a great video that isn't already a video. And I think it could be an interesting topic. I think, when you think of Level 42 videos that were made overall, there's probably some hits and some misses, but it really depends on who you talk to. But what song, guys, do you think would have made for a good video, whether it was a single or not? And I'm going to start with Mikey first. Put the pressure on Mikey.
Oh, wow. Okie doke. For me, this was a challenging one, Bob, for me. And because I was tossing like 3 songs around and I couldn't decide which one. So I finally decided on Fashion Fever.
Interesting.
And my idea was, because Running in the Family had 5 major singles off of it.
Right.
Every song on that album could have been a single, in my opinion. But anyway, I thought a video would have been fun because, Level has always been knocked for, though they're not fashion and, they're not this and they don't look like that. And I thought it would be kind of like a fun live performance video, like on a catwalk with some of the major models from the 80s. Right. Kind of messing around with them and dressing them up and letting them prance around and uber fashion kind of tongue in cheek.
That would be fun. That's a good.
But that was kind of my idea anyway.
No, I like that. I can almost see that. Like, you think of the Genesis video, "We Can't Dance." It kind of made fun of fashion a little bit.
Yeah, exactly.
I can see them having a good time with that. That's a good one.
I don't remember that video.
Yeah, but, it involved a large iguana coming out of a car. Win, what about you?
Interesting. Well, this wasn't hard because I didn't give it any thought. But, Actually, I did. So I would like to see a video for people.
Oh, that's interesting. All right.
And basically, it could just be the band walking around in a city.
Mm-hmm.
You know, not unlike Children Say.
Right.
Or what's that video that Mike, I believe he shot himself from the On the One album?
Was that On the One?
Yeah, I think it was On the One. Like something like that, but interspersed with some live performance.
Mm-hmm.
Not necessarily like in front of a crowd,
right?
But them playing the instruments, because I would love to see them playing parts of that song. Obviously, the solos, especially the bass solo.
Right.
So I think that just that's a simple thing.
Yeah,
wouldn't cost a chunk of change, and it's a great song. I think so. Has a great message.
Yep.
So I thought that would be kind of a fun, light video.
And we could see when the wine is seasonable.
Right.
We can
Yeah.
No, that's a good one. I like good ones. I actually came up with two, and I'm going to do this real quick because I know we got to get to the main topic. But when I think of Level 42 videos, there are some performance ones, but there are, as Wynn was kind of alluding to, there's ones that have lyrics that tell a good story. And I thought one video could be a good video, was from the song Lying Still off World Machine.
Yeah.
You can kind of play, video-wise, you can kind of play the lyrics straight up the middle, where the lyrics are the visuals. She came through the door around my place. She was not the same, blah, blah, blah. She turned her head away, And I just think of that time frame. I can envision a really slick-looking 80s video, dark room, city outside, whatever the woman is, could be, have that Sybil Shepherd filter on her face. You guys ever saw Moonlighting, but you could never saw.
Oh yeah.
Nope. Explain that. I watched Moonlighting, but what does that mean? How does she look?
All right, so if you go after we're done with this, Win, I want you to just Google the word Sybil Shepherd and filter, and you will see.
Why would that even be a thing that I could Google? That's going to come up with an example of that?
Yeah, I think it would.
Oh my gosh! Okay,
because they would, you'd see Bruce Willis. He'd look like Bruce Willis, but then they'd pan to her, a beautiful woman. Don't get me wrong, but you could barely see her face because it was so softened.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
I get the whole soft filter thing, but I didn't know.
Oh my God.
I haven't seen the show in years, and apparently it's just they've got a deal to stream it somewhere finally. But that's interesting. I never noticed that she was really had that model,
and she really didn't need to. I mean,
she was a model.
It's a cool theme song.
It is. I heard it. I heard it this weekend, actually.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. All righty.
I liked your idea, Bob. A sort of video kind of filmed in monochrome, grays, whites, blacks, and very stark. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I like that.
And then the other one I came up with, it was kind of a tie for me, and it was another song that kind of tells a story, and that's Silence off Staring at the Sun. This one, because again, it's another story video. I think you could add a layer of subtlety to this video. All right, so a layer of subtlety would be if we think of the video for Out of Sight, Out of Mind. Mark is kind of reaching his hand out to this hooded woman feature throughout, and every time he does, the woman disappears. Mm-hmm. And then at the end, the woman reaches out to Mark, and then he disappears. I'm like, oh, that's a great twist, right?
Yeah.
So
that's a great song too.
Right. Oh, it's a great song. And so I'm putting my director's hat on for Silence, and you don't see the face of the lonely girl lying awake at night with silence ringing in her ears, and you don't see the lonely boy watching from the bridge with his reflection in the lake, but it's him, right? And so you go through the verses and the chorus, and maybe there's some band interplay in and out. But then at the end, the lonely boy and the lonely girl decide they're going to kind of tell each other how they feel. because quote unquote, don't be afraid, love will always come your way, right? And then when they finally meet, the camera finally shows the faces of the main character, and it turns out to be our own Winston Walker and Lolita Jackson.
Wow, you really were holding that one in to the end, huh?
Oh my goodness!
Well played. I could tell something was coming because I could feel him trying to hold laughs in.
Anyway, that would be my video.
Right. Now I've got two more.
Go ahead.
No, I actually did have two more, but it's
Go ahead. I deserve it. Give it back to me, Win.
No, because I don't. It was just songs that I thought you could have a good video to, but I had no idea for the video other than when I realized Dune 2 and Star Child, they're both heavily sci-fi influenced. So
right,
that was really it. I didn't think much more about it.
Plus, I think there is a video for Star Child already.
No, there's not. There's a live thing from Top of the Pops, but
that's right. You're right.
Not like a proper promo video.
Yeah.
In any way. I would just say this though.
Mm-hmm.
If you're listening to this, which we hope you are.
Yes, you are.
Wherever you're listening, whether it's the video on YouTube or the Facebook page, somewhere you can leave a comment. If you've got an idea for a video for a song, share it.
Yeah, I love that idea. And I thought about that and I forgot to even mention it. Thank you, Lynn. That's awesome. So yeah, good topic, and I would love to hear what other people say.
I wanted to say something about silence, and Winston might remember this. We threw a level fest in Texas when this was 1998. This is going way back.
Wow.
And me and my buddy Sean Green, we kind of messed around and played some music and stuff at my house, and silence was one of the tunes. And of course, I can't sing, but I was singing, trying to anyway. So I'm singing silence and singing the end of the song. Everyone's just starting to break out and laughing. I was like, well, I know they're laughing at my singing, but there's obviously something else going on, fly down or what. And instead of singing Love Will Always Come Your Way, I was singing Love Will Never Come Your Way.
Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know if you remember that, Win, but yeah.
I do not, but I would have been laughing.
Yeah. So if you're going to sing level 42 badly, at least get the damn lyrics right, Yeah.
Well, we go back to these instrumentals that you're talking about, and you try to sing along. You're like, I'm going to come right in like this, and I'm going to be Mark King or Mike Lindup, and you hear yourself, and I'm like, ugh, what am I doing?
Yeah, hoping my husband doesn't walk in me shit screaming these songs. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And even when Win was saying, yeah, I'll make these versions without bass, so his bass player friends might want to play, and every time I try to do that, I'm like, I get depressed.
Yeah.
Well, I have thought it would be good because, like, a lot of times I'll hear people playing bass or guitar to tracks on YouTube or whatever, but it's like, I'm still hearing the original, so it's like, okay, well, how much of this is you and how much is the recording? Exactly. It's like, there's some people who obviously have figured it out, but it's like, yeah, it'd be cool if you not have the original track there. Even if you're replacing the drums, instead of just playing along to, it's just like you're doubling up everything.
Yep.
But kind of a cool way of doing it. But I did have my buddy Alandis. He asked me to do "Easy" by Nick Kershaw because he's like, man, I've been playing that song, but it's like there's a little bit in there that I can never make out, and I got it to him, and it basically soloed the bass track so he could hear it. He's like, awesome. Now I know what they're doing. I wouldn't know what Mark's doing. So pretty cool.
That's
awesome. Awesome track. Yeah.
Anyway, guys, good stuff. Good conversation. I did want to kind of pivot towards the main course today, which is True Colors. It's the 40-year anniversary of that album. Came out in, what's the math? 1884. In October, I believe.
Yeah,
And
October.
in kind of going, I'm glad we're doing this because I really haven't revisited this album as an album in I don't know how long, and I'm glad I did. This was the band's fifth album. It reached number 14 on the UK album charts. Hot Water made it to number 18 on the UK singles chart, and then the second single, The Chant Has Begun, only made it to number 41. The album was produced by Ken Scott, who has a laundry list of credits, including his service as producer for groups like Supertramp, Devo, David Bowie, Elton John, Stanley Clarke, Mahavishnu Orchestra. And he also had a bunch of engineering credits for the little band called the Beatles. So for me and for many of the Level 42 hardcore, album was the kind of the table setter for World Machine and the hit period they would have right after that. Our good friend Lolita Jackson, I just mentioned earlier, I was texting with her about it a couple days ago, and she made this really cool analogy in calling True Colors, for Level 42 is what the Royal Scam was for Steely Dan before they put out Asia. And I think that's kind of right on.
That's funny.
And also, for my part, this album might be the most diverse in terms of the types of music on it. I think if there's ever an album you can't pigeonhole Level 42, it's this one. Whether you're going, Hot Water or True Believers on one end of the spectrum to the very mournful Hours by the Window on the other, there's just that and so many different atmospheres in between on this one. I really like it. It's probably their rockiest album for as far as I'm concerned, but you guys might feel differently. I'll put it to you guys first. Win, what do you think about True Colors when it comes to your mind?
I like the whole album. One song stands out that I was never a fan of, but one thing that I really never picked up on until we decided to do this was like there were only 2 singles. And I feel like there's a few other songs in there I think could have been singles. So I don't know why there were only 2. The other thing is, it's always in my head that, okay, when they did World Machine, I was like, what are they doing? Like, they're getting away from that thing that I really liked about them. But they got away from that thing that I really liked about them with this album, True Colors.
How
and
so?
it seemed like I never, because there's no instrumentals for one thing.
Oh yeah, good point.
And that was like I didn't come in loving an instrumental by them first. I came in loving Star Child, and then, I got the second album, a couple of instrumentals. But this one I never noticed. It's just like, wow, I really like all these songs. It didn't really feel like a big departure from what they were doing. And, and it's like at some point I realized, oh, wow, there's not an instrumental track on here. You know? So I really like it, and listening to it again as a whole, I'm like, yeah, once I get past the first song, it's all uphill. Like, I love what they're saying in the chant. Musically, I never cared for it.
Yeah, I can feel that.
And we were talking about videos. That's one they could redo. I hate that video, but whatever. It doesn't really matter because, I have favorite songs and the videos suck and it doesn't hurt the song.
Right.
But that's just a little overview. I love this album.
Yeah. What about you, Mikey?
The one thing I noticed in prepping for, because like you, Bob, I hadn't listened to the album as a whole in a while until a few days ago. And the majority of the tunes are written by Mark and Phil.
Yeah, totally.
On this album. So, obviously it's very bass heavy, very percussive heavy, guitar heavy. And, for Level 42 history, we know the album that follows this album. So I can only imagine people hearing the last track, Hours by the Window, and then hearing the very first track of World Machine, that talk about 2 completely different songs.
Yeah.
But obviously, I bought the cassette when I first heard Hot Water. So, yeah. And that, and of course, we'll talk about the other tunes, but Kansas City Milkmen
Yes.
is one of the top 10 songs for me from level 42.
Yeah.
So.
Let's start. I mean, let's go down the list a little bit. Winston mentioned the chant has begun to start it off. As Mikey, you said, this is another Mark King, Phil Gould combination tune. And like Winston, I'm not the biggest fan of this song. The bass is a little hard for me to hear. I think the message is great. But what is interesting about the song is it's really a pivot lyrically in terms of its socio-political, and you've heard Phil Gould tell a story how it was a turning point in a direction in terms of even kind of annoying, excuse me, the A&R guys who kind of saw them as this British Earth, Wind, and Fire band, and that's it. And Phil wasn't really having that with U2 at the time, and Peter Gabriel and the Police writing more socially conscious stuff, and they were succeeding with it. So I think if you look at The Chant Has Begun and Kansas City Milkman, that's Kansas City Milkman's not a song about Mark's early days as a milkman. It's about it's another socio-political tune from Phil in terms of the information you might receive from a reporter, how it they wanted to break it down so even a Kansas City milkman could understand it. But is it the truth? Is it what we take for the truth? So I thought lyrically this was a really a growth thing for Phil and for the band, and it was good that they had Phil doing that, because of it. I don't know if they could have continued to write He Loves You and She Loves Me and love triangles, whatever, the rest of the way through. I just think it was a nice departure and a good steer in that direction.
Yeah, I agree with you there, Bob, too, because there's one track that I always think's on this album that's not, and that's I Want Eyes.
Mm-hmm.
I always, for some reason, always think it's on the True Colors album where it's on Standing in the Light. But yeah, there's definitely a lot more social commentary and point of view.
Yep.
Right at the very beginning of this album.
Yeah, you're right. You're right to bring that up though, because that was the album before that was Standing in the Light, and there certainly was a kind of a more political song. But it was just an indication that Phil wasn't going to be having 10 songs of Let's Groove tonight, right? I mean, he was going to do some more serious stuff.
Right. And when you read the lyrics of The Chant Has Begun, this is 1983, 1984.
Mm-hmm.
We're talking Ronald Reagan era, Margaret Thatcher area, Khrushchev in Russia, I think at that time, the Soviet Union at that time. The nuclear threats and Cold War. Those lyrics might seem kind of over the top to some today, but living in those days, it definitely wasn't over the top.
Yeah. No, I was when you bring it back, when you talk about it, obviously we're high school and college at that point, but college age at that point, and fun times to live through, but they were good days. Speaking of days, the next song is 7 Days, which
I thought it was Kansas City Milkman.
No, well, we just talked about Kansas City Milkman.
Oh, we didn't. Someone mentioned it.
Oh, okay. What else you want to say about it?
Well, I'd like to say that I think that's one of the best songs we've ever done. I never get tired of hearing it live.
That's a great point. When you're right, it became such a staple.
Yeah, I mean that's a song that I liked immediately. I think we just literally mentioned that, what the lyrics were about, explaining what Kansas City Milkman means, but I don't think anybody really said anything about that. Does anyone like that song? Like, I don't care for.
Yeah, no, you're right.
I love this, yeah, it's a great sounding song.
Yeah,
it's a song that when I heard it before I heard Phil in an interview explaining it, I'm like, I don't know what the hell this is about, but I love it.
Right.
You know,
It is for me. The album version is a little lackluster compared to all the live versions, and what I think is so cool about the song "When" is this may be the most played Level 42 song that wasn't a single. If you think about it, it's because it's so like the song is rhythmically, it's really hypnotic. It's got great atmosphere and instrumental parts of the song. So I think this. I think we were talking a few months ago about a recent video where they played this and kids are actually dancing to the song, the live version, and it's just got such a killer groove, and it's just it's mostly finger style, and it's such a good groove, this song.
Yeah, it's very quintessentially Level 42.
Mm-hmm.
If you only pick a handful of songs that really represent Level 42, I think Kansas City Milkmen would be one of them. And like you, hearing the live version from the Physical Presence, if I would rather listen to that version to the album version, but still, it's a great tune, album or live, anyway.
I love every live version from every tour they've done that.
yeah,
they started adding horns to it, which I really like too.
Well, that's a good point you made, because it's like since the album dropped, they played it live, and maybe this is a song that's not one of the big pop hits that has gotten played the most, been in the most tours live. Mm-hmm. And you don't, I guess you don't, maybe I don't think about it because it's not an up-tempo song. So it's not like they jump into the Chinese Way or something that seems to get played a lot, and you get an immediate reaction.
Yep.
From the crowd. But like it occurred to me too when thinking about the chant, and Mikey just mentioned the Physical Presence. Like I was looking at, because I had that single. It was a single 12-inch that they released, and it was like the mixes or something. It was like 4 different tracks. Mm-hmm. It was like the chant, and then it was like Love Games USA mix, Almost There, and then a remix of The Sun Goes Down. And the chant, it says, it was mixed by Mark King and Greg Jackman, and the Greg Jackman name was bugging me. And then I looked, I'm like, oh, he mixed and produced the Physical Presence live album.
Oh, look at you.
Because I was thinking, is that the guy that did like a lot of the B-side live tracks? But I believe that was Dick Plant. So then it was really bugging me, like, Why do I know Greg Jackman? And, for all I know, it could have been a credit on some other band's album that just stuck in my brain. But so and I do like the remix of the chant more than the original.
I agree.
Version.
I agree with you on that.
But that's like saying I like to get punched in the face 3 times as opposed to 5.
It's not that bad.
It's not that bad.
I know it's not. It's just we go through all of these tracks. To me, that's like, for me, that's the weakest song on the album.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and they let it off, right?
Right, and they and again, like, why only 2 singles? So as we go deeper into this, we're going to be like, okay, we're going to get the Hot Water. Okay, obvious single, but I feel like there's 1 or 2 other songs like, and everyone thinks this. Oh, this should have been a single, but I feel like I understand why you want to release the chant as a single. If this is an important song to you as a band.
Yep.
Right. But I feel like, man, there should have been at least another single off this album.
It's a fair point. It's definitely a fair point.
Alrighty.
So I just mentioned 7 Days real briefly. Not one of my favorites, but good song. Maybe I always look at it as kind of a slower bossa nova. I do like, Mark and Mike's vocal kind of answering calls of each other in the chorus, but interesting song.
I like it. I like it a lot.
I really liked the acoustic version that they did of it, 10 years ago on the acoustic album?
Yep.
Yeah, to me, it was the song that sounded most like the original.
Yeah.
off the acoustic. I thought they did an excellent job on that track, 7 Days.
Yep. Yeah. Good tune.
And also hearing the instrumental of it recently too, I heard a ton of stuff going on in the background that I hadn't heard before.
Yeah, I should give that a listen.
Definitely
And then we
not a
turned to
filler
Hot
track.
Water.
I love it.
Then we turned to Hot Water, which kind of, if you're talking album, kind of closed out side A. And really, obviously, this is like all-time classic. I think the story goes that the original, kind of the bass riff came from a mini Moog sequence from Mark dating back to like 1979 or 1980. And it was always one of those riffs that they always had, jammed around, and they finally got into making it to a song, looking for material for the True Colors album.
Well,
Go ahead, Win.
no, I was going to say, first time I heard this, I was like, ooh, what are they doing with this synth bass? Like, because you don't think of that at this point when you think of this band.
Yep.
Bass wise, and I was like, ooh, I dig this. This is a nice groove.
Oh my God, it's such a killer. And I've seen and read both from Mark King's point of view and Ken Scott, the producer. They both said the same thing, which is at that point, Mark had gotten into those, I guess, the AMS sampling machines. And there's a great story of, they're recording something within the song Hot Water, and Ken's like, you got to do it over. And Mark said, no, we could just AMS it. And Ken Scott, he's this legendary producer. He didn't even know anything about sampling. So Mark kind of taught him how to use this new technology at this point. So it was kind of cool. And Mark has also said that the Hot Water at this point is the exact point where the band jumps from working on songs through jamming with them to using technologies to help create the song. And I think that's a very valid point if you think about it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I really dug when I got that live album, Physical Presence. Like, wow, they used that riff as the intro for the show.
Yeah. That was the first live track I ever heard from Level 42 was Hot Water. So,
oh, wow.
Yeah. And again, it's gone through a lot of variations over the years with the live version. And they're always growing it somehow. And that's what I love about it. I love over the past decade, maybe even longer than that now, but how they've given Mike a Rhodes solo in the middle of it.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yeah. And I'm glad that they added the end of the song too, where Mike has his, turn the lights.
Yeah.
Oh man, yeah. Where the lyrics go when you need them.
Me something. Where are you staying tonight?
That's it. Yeah.
Your folks
are waiting up for you. Now they've locked the door and turned off the light. That's it. Right.
Yeah. So that would be Physical Presence. Was that almost there that opened the album?
Yes.
Yeah.
Right. Because I remember when this would be 84. I don't know if I was still in the Air Force yet or just going back and playing with the guys in the band, but we did that. We were doing that song, and then we wanted to start it. So me and my buddy Lance, I remember being in my room. So I must have been, I was still in the service, and we were programming that bass, that Hot Water riff into my sequencer so we could play it to start that song.
Right. It's very much a signature tune, and it's funny. It did make a dent in the charts. I think I said it made number 14. But I don't know if people, having not lived in England, whether they think of that song as a hit. You know what I mean? But they're known for that song. I just don't know if people know it as a hit or just one of those album tracks that just get some radio airplay.
Right. I'm pretty sure because when we got World Machine, the U.S. version, they put that song on there, and I'm pretty sure it charted in Billboard.
It did.
Not very high, but it was interesting that it did. So
yeah, it was in the 80s when, like, I mean, not the
Yeah.
year the 80s. I mean, in the, I think it was like 86 or 80.
Yeah, when it came out, World Machine came out here. Yeah.
No, but I mean, it charted in the 80s is the number in the high 80s.
Oh, duh. Okay. I got you. Not
It did. And the
not
video
the year in the 80s, but it
Right.
was 85 or 87 on the charts. I get it.
but it did get here in the U.S. It did get some video airplay off, still riding off of
That's right. Yeah.
Something About You. As a matter of fact, that's what led me to buy World Machine. Obviously I fell in love with Something About You, like everybody had, and I hadn't bought the album. And then when I saw the video for Hot Water, knowing it was on that album, I was like, all right, now I got to get this thing. So that's what kind of put me over the edge.
Yeah, because Hot Water, well, according to Wikipedia, Hot Water, the single, reached number 3 in the Netherlands, number 7 in Belgium,
Right.
number 18 in the UK, as I think you said, Bob, already. But
Right.
And then when you brought it up, Hot Water was released in the US in 86, being on the US version
Right.
of World Machine. And it entered the Billboard Hot 100 at 87.
87. I don't think it went any higher than that.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, because I do remember. Yeah, it's interesting because I do remember but because it's kind of a very different song from the singles that were released from World Machine.
Yeah.
So Something About You, and then the other songs. So that was kind of a very different one. But I get why they tried to shoehorn in 2 or 3 songs from other albums.
Yeah.
Like, oh well, these were hits.
Yep.
So let's see if they can be hits, and then they, I remember that video coming on MTV, and we already discussed this in a previous episode of the podcast, but I was like, that's not a new video. But hey.
And not to forget too, an incredible mix, the master mix of that song.
Oh my God, I love that.
That goes on for 25 minutes, I think.
I don't think it's that long, but
or 9. But yeah, I get your point. Yeah, and I'm kind of surprised though. Like, to me, that's the perfect song for remixing. And to me, it wasn't really a great remix. Like, there should have been a few of them, and maybe they should have did a remix for the when it came out in America. Get like somebody famous to remix it or something. But because that's a song that it kind of begs for a good remix.
Yeah.
Because you could just go crazy on it.
I do love the master mix, like Mikey, like with the chant raps, whatever you want to call it, towards the middle end. I really like, and it almost sounds like it's Mark and maybe Phil singing at the same time. I'd love to get the verse on that. And also Phil's, he's got some great drum fills at the end of that master mix. Like the snare is so tight in that. I'm like, oh my God. I wanted to pivot real quick to A Floating Light, because this to me, it's got to be the most ambitious song on the album. You got like this fanfare horn section intro, and then it just stops before getting to the first verse. And then the drums come back again into the first verse. Then you got your second verse, your second chorus. And then there's this crazy middle 8 that slows down again. The neither asleep nor awake goes from like D7 to C7.
What that's called being awesome.
Yeah. It goes from like D7 to C7. And then a wild drum fill with a real rock guitar solo, which is underpinned by like Mark's, like a really dark bass line. And this, for me, I've said this before, nobody ever agrees with me. There is a moment in that solo with Boone and with what Mark's playing on the bass and with a drum fill that Phil has, it sounds a little like Rush. And I was like, wow, this is freaking awesome, this song.
No, I disagree.
Okay.
Rush sounds
See, I knew
like
you would.
this.
Everybody does.
Rush sounds like this. Now, this song is amazing.
Yep.
It's a weird song, like dynamically, like you were describing. It just kind of builds and builds. And this is a song, like my buddy, one of my best friends in the Air Force, Rob, or Rob Boo, as we call him. I let him hear this album. He fell in love. This was the standout song on the album for him.
Mm-hmm.
And he loved it. And I remember the first time they did it live and it was recorded, I sent him a copy of it. And it blew his mind again. And I love this song. And this is a song that I would have loved to hear Boone play live.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. Floating Life, and the next song we're going to talk about, True Believers. I wish we would have heard live in the Boone era. Absolutely.
Great points. I mean,
let's see.
It's pretty heavy. Like the guitar solo is pretty heavy in that song.
Another thing I love about it is when they come out of, maybe it's the second verse or something, and you have that Linda, just those vowel backing vocals, the ahs or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? Like I love that. Whether it's just wordless backing vocals, that's amazing in the song.
Yeah.
Yeah. Go ahead, Bob.
It's a very, as I said before, very ambitious song. It is not a prog song, but it's got elements in prog in the form of it's just different tempos, completely different sections of music within the same song. So I think it's really cool song.
Yeah, and it's one of those songs too that translated really well live.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah,
as well, because live in person, hearing it was incredible.
And what about True Believers, guys? As Win brought up the point about not having a third single, maybe True Believers should have been it. What do you guys think?
Totally agree, 100%. Yeah.
Yes, yeah. That would be an easy song to make a single.
Yeah.
Yeah. That definitely. I mean, hell, I would have gone with Kansas City Milkman, but I don't know if that, just that I love the song so much. But True Believer seems like it would be more of in spirit of maybe what people expect from this band. Killer, keep saying killer bass groove.
Yeah.
The percussive synth parts, that marimba sound,
mm-hmm.
Keyboard. So I love it. But it's just a groove.
Yep. Like
that's a song where you're like, you know what? They could do Mikey's filtered version live and I would love it.
Yeah.
No vocals, just play.
Yeah. Winston, you've always said you can't wait to hear Return of the Handsome Rugged Man live. Well, for me, back in the day, it was True Believers. And then when Mark, with his, Grupo Mark King group,
mm-hmm.
Did that True Believers live, it was just, for me, it was one of those moments like, I never thought I'd ever hear it live. But then hearing it live, it was just, wow. Especially the way that Mark kind of ended it in the live version, with the real drum heavy. And kind of replayed the chorus again. Really intense with Gary Husband just going crazy on the drums there at the end.
Yeah.
But like I just said a minute ago, it would have been amazing to hear Phil, Boone, and Mark and Mike version of this tune live back in the day.
I think underrated in this song is Phil Gould's hi-hat pattern. Really clever stuff going on. And I think it had been played. Yeah, it would have been played at the Live from Metropolis studio during that DVD in December 2011, and that's a cool version too. It's very heavy, But I agree with you guys. It would have been nice to hear the original lineup do that song. It would have been awesome.
Yeah, well, I think Lolita was pointing out the other day, it's like they just don't play this song enough live.
Yep.
You know, which I kind of agree with. Like that would be a burner every time.
Yeah, and Lolita, she's told me that's between that song and My Hero, which I guess we'll pivot to now. Those are her favorite bass lines, and she, My Hero, which we could talk about now, is I think it may be one of their most underrated songs. What always drove me crazy about this song is, what was it, Win? Is it not on the CD version, or it's not listed on the CD version?
It's a bonus track on the CD and the cassette. It's not on vinyl.
Right, but I think on on the original CD, I don't even think they listed the song. I could be wrong.
Oh, that I don't know. That would be interesting if they didn't list it on the CD but included it as a bonus track. Yeah. Maybe that's an oversight or something. But I remember, because I think I got this cassette first, so I heard the song. And usually that's the way I was getting the releases. Like for some reason, the cassette was coming out in America first, or at least the store was carrying it.
Right.
And then I got the vinyl, and I'm like, "Ooh, that's not on the vinyl." But great tune. It kind of immediately put me in a New York space because I was like, first line mentions Bleecker Street.
All right, so let's stop right and talk about that. Do you know, and this drives me crazy, if you look up the lyrics to My Hero, it says on Baker Street.
Look it up where?
It drives me up a wall. It's Bleecker Street.
Right. Okay. So I had a conversation about this with someone the other day. Because I was always singing Bleecker Street.
It is Bleecker Street.
Right. I know it's Bleecker Street, but the same thing, I was like, oh, okay, well, let me read the lyrics. And like you just mentioned, Baker Street. And I'm like, it had me questioning myself for a few minutes. Like, it is Bleecker Street, right? But what got me was like, well, maybe there's a Bleecker Street in London.
Right.
So, and I'm assuming, because I don't really know all the intricacies here of the releases, the lyrics obviously were they printed in the album?
No, they're definitely
okay. Yeah. So that's why. But I immediately heard Bleecker Street, and it kind of made sense with the rest of the lyrics. But yeah, you're right. That's like, why are they saying? But that's what you get online, I guess.
Well, here's what happens. Like, somebody comes up with the lyrics once, they get it wrong, and then everybody takes it for their own lyrics websites, which is wrong everywhere.
Oh, right. Because I've seen, I saw something the other day about Level, and it was wrong. Well, two things. Where I think I don't know if I spoke to you, Bob, or if it was the three of us, when I was saying, there was someone was online was making a list of all these tracks that were played at the Paradise Garage Club and Disco in New York. Right. Larry Levan played whatever, famous DJ, and they list a couple of over 42 songs, and they say Star Child, and they list it as 1985.
Yeah, you did tell me this. Yeah,
there was a remix in 85, but they were playing that song in late 81, 82, because that's when I went to the club and heard it. So, and there was something else that I saw recently. It might have been related to Ken Scott. Because some website was listing that he produced World Machine, when in fact he produced this album.
He did, but I feel like he may have had something to do with the song World Machine. I'm not positive about that. But not the album.
But they were listing maybe, but they definitely were listing albums that he produced.
Yeah. His list is. Have you ever looked at his list? When it's
ridiculous. I knew he had done, where it kind of made sense. Like, oh, maybe that's why they got him, because he had done stuff with Billy Cobham, Stanley Clarke, Mahavishnu. Now Mahavishnu may have just been engineering. I'm not sure, because he's done a lot of engineering and then production. But it kind of, you know, when you look at, I mean, it's just a crazy cross section of stuff. Like this guy wasn't getting pigeonholed into doing one type of music.
No way.
You know, so it's kind of like Jeff Beck and Bowie.
Yep.
But in any event, this song is, I liked it immediately. Not sure why they would just make it a bonus track, because it's like such a good song, I think.
It is.
You know, and I was talking to, was it Paul or Simon, both of them? And they were telling me that, you know, Boone wrote the lyrics and it was referenced Jimi Hendrix.
That's right. Yep.
Which makes sense for Bleecker Street.
Yes, it does. Yeah.
But I didn't know that until we decided to do this. And I was literally asking because that Baker Street thing came up and I'm like, have I been hearing this wrong the whole time? Like, you know, and I'm like, guys, it's Bleecker Street, right? And they're like, yeah, it's Bleecker Street. And then I think it was Paul that was like, oh yeah, I spoke to Phil and Phil told me this was Boone's tribute to Jimi Hendrix.
Yep.
And I'm like, okay. So I never knew that until a couple of days ago, a week ago, maybe at best. So
and there's a really great note.
Awesome.
There's a really great note in the book by Matt Phillips where he kind of, it's on track with Level 42, where he kind of talks about every Level 42 song. And he notes that at the 150 mark during My Hero, there's a synth guitar melody, which is the main riff from a Jimi Hendrix song called Who Knows. So I'm going to be doing that just to see how true that is, because it sounds very interesting. You know,
I just found that book the other day. It's been sitting on the second shelf of my coffee table.
It's a good book.
And I could not get through it. And I don't want to disparage the writer.
Right.
I didn't like the writing style.
Mm-hmm.
And I kind of bailed on it. But it was like I was getting good information. Right. But I don't like the writing style of it. So I kind of gave up on it. But I'm going to have to go back and finish it because, you know, there's obviously a lot there that I could learn.
Oh, yeah. No, I think, you know, we're going to talk about this album, but these books, these on-track books, basically have all the same format, you know, just basically 3 or 4 paragraphs on every song. So I think it's good to have. It's a nice thing to have when we do a podcast like this, just kind of refer to things that might, you just hope it's accurate. You know, you're not sure where all the information came from, where it's,
there you go. So so I'll have to jump back into it. But I bought that book right away. But I remember like, I'm not digging this, and just kind of put it down.
And then, so My Hero, great song and such a killer
Absolutely.
song. I can't get over it. And guys, can you just say the title of the next song? Because I'm going to say it wrong.
Kuyete?
Yeah.
I say Kuyate. I think they're singing it, you know, a special way to make it melodic. I have no idea how it's pronounced. So, you know, I could be giving you totally false information.
Yeah.
But I've just always read it as Kuyate.
Yeah, I think I preferred the live version of this. Like, Boone kind of had a very lilting guitar that you didn't necessarily hear on the album version, but you hear it on the live version. I prefer that.
There's no bass in this song, is there?
Say that again, Mike. I'm sorry.
There's no bass in this tune, is there? Maybe synth bass, but I don't.
Yeah, because I think Mark was playing the rototoms.
I don't think there's any bass in this tune.
There is in the spoken word part, now that I think of it. And it's just a bong, bong.
Yeah.
It's just a one-note thing. But yeah, I'd have to listen back. Probably right about that.
I thought it was the only Level 42 song without bass. I could be wrong. I'm sure Simon and Paul will tell me.
Somebody will know. I never know.
I do like the live version. Yeah, the live version rocks.
And
Yeah.
it's not, I think some people associate this as a Lindup song because he sang it, but he actually didn't write anything on this. It was basically Mark, Phil, and Wally tune.
Yeah, because the demo version of this song is very different than the final version
Mm-hmm.
of the song. The original demo, I think it's out there. It's much more melodic,
Right.
more poppy, more melodic, I guess.
Yeah.
Very different than what ended up on the album.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like the song. I like the album version. I like it live.
Nice soprano sax solo by Gary Barnacle on that one too.
Nice what? Sax?
Soprano sax.
Oh, I didn't know he played soprano on that album.
Yes. Let's get him on to find out.
I know he did electric, tenor, alto. Ask me if I know the difference.
He's a full brass man.
I don't. So, for people wondering at home. Yeah, Wally, obviously, because I think that's it, right? Like, besides the band members, like Wally and Gary.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, and I did take a quick check. There's no credit for Ken Scott on the World Machine album at all.
Okay.
Okay.
So
Yeah, that might just be misinformation.
Yeah, well, because they didn't list True Colors, they list World Machine instead. So, but that's the thing with wikis. Anyone can adjust it. So it can be, people do it to hilarious results,
Yeah.
So it's like anyone can add information, just like, the lyrics, but you got a good point. Like someone does it and people just copy it and,
Yep.
go to shows and sing it wrong.
Yeah. Because according to Wikipedia now, the album hasn't come out yet. Yeah.
It's funny because I thought everything on the internet was true.
Yeah.
You really
From a certain point of view,
You're really opening my eyes on that one.
as Obi-Wan said.
It sure took our village by surprise.
And then the album closes with Hours by the Window, which is just
awesome.
such a diversion. I saw an interview with Phil recently. It was an older interview, but he talks about that song and how he actually thought that should have been a single. And
I agree.
He said it was one of the only a couple of Level 42 songs he worked on where he just had the lyrics and no real music around it. And Mark had the song and the melody line, and he just gave Mark the lyrics, and Mark put it together. And I think if Phil, as he explains this, he was reading Arthur Kessler quite a bit. And he had a book called I think it was called The Spanish Testament, and where he talked about his experiences. He was in prison under the sentence of death during the Spanish Civil War. And so that's basically what, he was accused of being a spy. And so that's basically, he kind of takes Arthur Kessler's point of view in that, for the lyric of that song. And
I didn't know that. Wow. That is interesting.
yeah. So very cool, very deep guy. Phil's a very deep guy, very well
written. Yeah, much more than I am. And lyrically, like it just paints a picture. This song, and it's in its simplicity, it's brilliant.
Yep. Yeah, it says apparently Mark had triple tracked his bass on it. And then you got Phil's basically just got some light snare work going on, and there's some Wally and I assume Mike keyboard flourishes throughout the song, but it's actually a pretty simple song. The one the one lyric that always gets me is the God that failed you. It's just like, oh my God, that's some really deep stuff. There was a Kessler essay that was submitted to a book called The God That Failed, but but it wasn't a Kessler writing. So I guess Phil may have gotten it from the name of that book, The God That Failed. Just some deep stuff. But I mentioned at the outset just how varied the music is, and I don't know if there's been anything like Hours Like the Window before or after. That's just something way out on its own, and kind of shows the depth and breadth of just how many music stylings they have. Just a great song.
Yeah, and
Stylings of level 42.
I love the way they close out the album with this track, and I also love the way that they close the track.
Yeah.
It's really, I always like listening to songs, that aren't predictable. And Hours by the Window is not a predictable song so much.
Yeah. And when you can't dance to it, you still like it?
Dance to everything, man. Dance to everything. Well, I think we've already went over that with people dancing to
Mr. Pink.
Stuff. Yeah, all right. Yeah, you can dance to everything. You got to do the waltz.
So I'll put it to you guys now that we've kind of gone through the album, just to close that, wrap up True Colors 40-year anniversary. Do you put that album for Level 42 in your top 3? Yes or no? Mikey?
Great album, but I would have to say no.
Mm-hmm. When?
I would have to look at the albums. Now you kind of putting me on the spot here, because my favorite is Pursuit.
Right. We discussed that.
So let's see. Physical Presence doesn't count.
Okay. Yeah, let's just go with studio.
So let's see. So it would be between Standing in the Light. I would put it above Standing in the Light, actually.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, I think it would probably be in my top 3 for sure.
Yeah, I think it's in my top 3 too.
Well, because I would have to look at the, let's see, the first album, okay. Yeah. It would be in at least the top 4, because you know what? I like the first album. I like more so. Man, this I can't. This is hard.
It's hard
because theoretically, you're looking at 9 songs, and there's one I really don't like.
Yep.
And then when I look at the first album, I like all of those songs. Right? It's 8 songs, but I like. There's not one that I feel like I don't like. Mm-hmm. So let's say I like the first album and the second album. This could easily be 3, because if I look at, the only other thing that might be in the running would be World Machine. And they put the chant on the U.S. World Machine, didn't they?
Yes, they did.
So that's not even. Yeah, this would be in my top. Well, now I got to look at, because I'm thinking of the U.S. version of World Machine. So I have to think about. No, I would give. This pains me to say this, but I would give World Machine an edge. So this would be number 4.
Okay.
It would be first album, second album, World Machine, this album.
I think, for my part, I am definitely putting True Colors into my my top 3, and it's just because of the strength of it's the diversity of the songs. It's I really like the extra guitars in it. I like the versatility of the lyrics. I think it's a very eclectic album. Yeah, I would put it in there. I'd probably have World Machine in there. And, my number 3 is going to always be between Forever Now, and Standing in the Light. Yeah, I'm a weirdo.
Nah, we're just
You're not a
different.
weirdo.
We're just different. I mean, every day I am amazed by something that someone says in one of the 42 groups. Like, this is my all-time favorite song. And I'm like, seriously? And why should I feel like that? Because it's like everything else. TV shows, movies, any kind of art. It's like a song is just going to hit people differently. And I get what you're saying about this is a very diverse album, but when I compare it to World Machine, I'm like, you know what? There's some songs on World Machine that, and I hate the whole, oh, that song's underrated. Like, not really. It's just you don't hear people talking about it, but doesn't mean that people don't think it's great. But like, I love I Sleep on My Heart.
Yeah.
I love Coup d'etat.
Yep.
Lying Still. I mean, there's a lot of strong, but this totally World Machine feels like something that like these songs could have come from anywhere, any different period, but it feels like they wrote all these songs together. Where True Colors feels like we got 50 songs from all different
it's a fair point.
over since the day we started as a band, and we picked the best ones to put on this album.
Right.
It doesn't need any theme. They
Right.
don't have to sound the same. And that says a lot.
Yeah.
You know, because there's not like, I mean, The Chant, nothing on that album sounds anything like that.
Yeah.
Nothing sounds like Kansas City Milkman.
Yeah.
7 Days kind of sounds like some other songs that they may have done. Hot Water doesn't sound like anything else they've ever done. Certainly A Floating Life doesn't sound like anything else they've ever
No.
done. So it's like, holy smokes. And then the last two songs, however you say it, and Hours by the Window. You know what I mean? So it's like, on one hand, you're like, this thing is all over the place.
Yeah.
And it works.
Yep. And I'm glad we've kind of had this discussion because it, like I said, it has been forever since I went front to back on that album, and now I'm kind of stuck on it. So apologies to my family in advance. They're going to be hearing this a lot more in the car. But that's why we do what we do. So anyway, guys, I wanted to thank you for the discussion again. Fun show. I want to thank everybody who tuned in. For Winston Walker, Mikey Payne, I'm Bob Considine. We are leaving you now, but we'll wait till you return. See you next time, everybody, and happy Saturday.
Bye-bye.
Good night.
Bye-bye, everybody. Bye-bye.